listening to The Mark Cox Show. Follow the show on Facebook. Facebook.com/The Mark Cox Show.
On healthcare, does the president want to start a new healthcare bill or tweak the one that did not go last week?
I think we're starting with where we are and trying to move that forward. I think that is the current vessel.
There you have it. The president making some comments on healthcare last night, too. We'll get to more of that coming up. But that was Sean Spicer this morning. Trey Gowdy making the comment that the caucus they held yesterday morning that Congresswoman Ann Wagner talked about yesterday on the show, he said was the most productive caucus meeting he's been to with the Republicans in like 5 or 6 years. So I do think, as Congresswoman Wagner alluded to, that might have been an indication that they're all a little upset over how the health thing went down, and maybe they'll get their act together. Let's hope. How about that? Let me get to my guest right now, Victoria Taft. She is a contributor to the Independent Journal Review. She's also a radio talk show host and has been featured on One American News Network, among others. Victoria, how are you?
I'm great, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm so glad that we could get you on the program because I wanted to pick your brain over a couple of things. You know, first of all, let me ask you this because it's kind of off the subject of why I had you on here. But what was your reaction to what Bill O'Reilly said about Maxine Waters and her hair? Because Hillary Clinton came out last night and accused him of being a racist for saying it.
Well, the thing is about Bill O'Reilly, he stated what is clearly the truth. Have you ever seen the side-by-side with Maxine Waters' hair?
I did see it, yes.
James Brown? Well, you know, help me. You know, I mean, that's pretty much, he needs help now. Of course, I heard him apologize yesterday.
He did, yes.
I'm not sure if that was racist. I doubt it. I don't think Bill O'Reilly really has a racist bone in his body, but he's getting a lot of flack for it today, and I think Maxine Waters has her hair is very, very much like James Brown. Not going to lie. I mean, God bless James Brown. May he rest in peace.
You can't avoid the observation at the very least. Well, thank you for your input on that. I appreciate that. So, speaking of women's issues, since we're talking about Maxine Waters, so the Women's March the day after the Trump inauguration, everybody, the mainstream media seemed to pay a lot more attention to that than the inauguration. But the ICE people were interested in one of the organizers of that Women's March. What in the world was going on with this lady?
Well, this is a woman who has been in the United States for the past 20 years and, in fact, got U.S. citizenship, and she's a terrorist. And she was imprisoned. She was, of course, tried and found guilty and imprisoned for 10 years for the murders of 2 Hebrew University students in Jerusalem in 1969. So here she is in the United States, and of course she has all the street cred now with the BDS movement and all the folks on the radical left who have decided that she's a wonderful spokesperson for fairness, equity, and loving Judaism, believe it or not. This is that's another aside. And then she was one of the faces of the Women's March, as well as the strike called A Day Without a Woman. And so therefore, this woman, Rasmea Youssef O'Day, was vaunted. She was out there in front, and people were having their pictures taken with her in the crowd. She was she's a person to whom they look and love and aspire to. I mean, she's gained a lot of street cred in the United States of America since she came back. But, of course, as you mentioned, ICE was kind of interested in this woman, and indeed they've been interested in her for quite some time because she's been on trial for lying on her immigration forms.
Talk about extreme vetting. I mean, I mean, my question is how can somebody apply to come into this country and simply check a box on their form that they've never committed a felony in their home country and nobody bothered to check? That's stunning. But I know it happens all the time.
But I'm pretty sure the case made the papers. I mean, for crying out loud. I mean, how do you miss that?
Yeah, she was, I was just looking back at your article here. They freed her as part of the prisoner swap sought by the Black September terrorists who took Israeli athletes hostage at the 72 Olympics. I mean, of course that made worldwide news.
There's your sign right there.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing that the person who was in charge, or the U.S. attorney in charge who's overseeing that case, it was a federal case, is, I imagine that they'll be replaced or what have you, but things will not change in the following month or a few weeks where she is going to be back in court, and she will basically make another plea and be deported from that point on. So April 25th, she's back in court. And so there's been a little bit of murky stuff going on here, but the bottom line is they decided to have a superseding indictment of this woman, O'Day. And among the things in the superseding indictment were sort of an expansion of the charges they'd already had against her, which included this little factoid that she was a person who was involved in the People for the Liberation of Palestine. So, I mean, these are the same groups that have been agitating for no Israel from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free, which, of course, is implicit in that a throwdown to the Israelis. By the way, we don't see you on this map. So,
right.
I mean, she's part and parcel of all of that.
And there was a social justice movement to try to get justice for Rasmea. I wonder, what about the justice for the people that she's accused of murdering?
Oh, well, how about justice for the Jews? The big fig leaf for this particular thing is that she was going to go, she was actually one of the main speakers of this group, the Jews for Peace. And it was kind of interesting because it's an anti-Zionist organization, an anti-Israel organization. And indeed, the people who are part of this organization are part of the BDS movement, which is to divest from Israel and to sort of choke it off economically. It's just fascinating, all of the intersections of all of these different groups, the Black Liberation Theologists, the Black Liberation people. It's an intersectionalist kind of thing. This is what they call it. This is a new word to me, wherein they want to bring in the Black Lives Matter and then intersect it with the Palestinian issue. And indeed, they're having some success at doing that. And that brings us to the Women's March. That was the culmination, the aggregation of all of these far-left groups to go and be a part of this march and this Day Without a Woman. And they successfully did that. And that is what you see here, the culmination of all of these groups. And she's like right in there. Looks like we're about to have a lot of days without that woman. Because she's going to be sent back, right? Hopefully she's already being sent back. Where do you send her? I mean, that's the other thing. Where do you send her? Yeah. I mean, apparently she might be going to Jordan, and I'm sure Jordan's going, yeah, ole, honey, get out of here. Well, how about Raqqa, Syria? That would be a great spot for you. Perfect. Yeah, that's a great thought. Listen, Victoria Taft, I appreciate your time. Let me direct people. They can go to the Independent Journal Review and see this and a lot of the other articles that you've written there. I'd love to have you on again sometime. I'd love to be here. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Appreciate your time. And just to point something out, Victoria did a great job on that. Just to point something out, don't think that this is an isolated incident. Do you remember a few years ago, and I've got the details in my brain, but not the names. There was a guy over in the U City area who had been involved in the Irish Republican Army and had been convicted of the death of a soldier over there or a police officer and lied on his immigration form to get into this country. And they discovered it years later, and there was some big push to let him stay here because he'd been such a good guy for all the years that he was here. And eventually he won that appeal, I believe, and got to stay. I'm going to have to go back and check on that. So this problem, these holes in our immigration system have been around a long time. They need to be fixed. 314-969